Bem-vindos a 60 Minutos e vamos falar da América, mas ao falar da América parece que estamos a falar de Portugal. É que também lá há o déficit, entre nós claro que é o déficit nacional, nos Estados Unidos chamam-lhe o déficit federal. E depois há uma meia centena de déficits dos Estados americanos, cada um com a sua história de dificuldades e problemas financeiros de grande risco, alguns deles. Quase o mesmo caso, mas em maior escala do que as 3 centenas de problemas orçamentais que os nossos municípios têm aqui em Portugal. O receio nos Estados Unidos é que, quando for feita uma contabilidade realmente nacional e se saiba quanto é que a nação deve, o mundo, como nós o conhecemos, pode acabar. E para se tapar estes buracos financeiros todos, é preciso mais dinheiro do que alguma vez se imaginou.
The most alarming thing about the state issue is the level of complacency.
Meredith Whitney é uma das analistas financeiras mais conceituadas de Wall Street e uma das mulheres mais influentes nos negócios americanos. Construiu a sua reputação ao avisar que os principais bancos estavam em apuros muito antes do colapso de 2008. Agora avisa sobre um desastre financeiro nas administrações estaduais e locais.
It has tentacles as wide as anything I've seen. I think next to housing, this is the single most important issue in the United States and certainly the largest threat to the U.S. economy.
Why aren't people paying attention?
Because they don't pay attention until they have to.
Whitney diz que é preciso estar atento.
The money that we take in, that's all the money we can spend.
O rating da Califórnia, com um déficit orçamental de 19 mil milhões de dólares este ano, é praticamente lixo. Gasta mais dinheiro com as pensões dos funcionários públicos do que com o sistema universitário estadual, que teve de aumentar os honorários em 32%. O Arizona está tão desesperado que vendeu o Capitólio, o edifício do Supremo Tribunal e as câmaras legislativas estaduais a um grupo de investidores e agora arrenda os edifícios ao novo proprietário. O Estado também eliminou a assistência da Medicaid à maior parte dos transplantes de órgãos. Depois temos Nova Jersey, com as taxas mais elevadas do país, um déficit de 10 mil milhões de dólares e uma economia em depressão no primeiro ano do cargo do governador Chris Christie. Mas, feitas as contas, decidiu abandonar um projeto há muito planeado e necessário em conjunto com o Estado de Nova York e o governo federal para construir um túnel ferroviário até Manhattan. Teria incentivado a economia e empregado 6 mil trabalhadores da construção.
Lots of jobs.
Yeah. I'd cancel it. I mean, listen, the bottom line is, I don't have the money. And you know what? I can't pay people for those jobs if I don't have the money to pay them. Where am I getting the money? I don't have it. I literally don't have it.
Is this going on all over the country?
Yes. Of course it is. It's not like you can avoid it forever, because it's here now. And we all know it's here. And the federal government doesn't have the money to paper over it anymore either for the states. The day of reckoning has arrived. That's it. And it's going to arrive everywhere. Time may vary a little bit depending upon which state you're in, but it's coming.
E onde a fatura saiu mais cara foi no Illinois, um estado que gasta o dobro do que recebe em impostos e que não tem capacidade para pagar as suas dívidas.
This is the state of affairs in Illinois. It's not pretty.
Dan Hines é o controlador do estado do Illinois, o seu tesoureiro. Atualmente tem 5 mil milhões de dólares em contas por pagar no gabinete e não há dinheiro que chegue nos cofres do Estado para tal. Ele afirma que estão com 6 meses de atraso.
How many people do you have clamoring for money?
It's fair to say that there are, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people waiting to be paid by the state.
So how are these people getting by if they're not getting paid by the state?
Well, that's the tragedy. People borrow money. They borrow in order to, get by until the state pays them.
They're subsidizing the state. They're giving the state a float.
Exactly.
And who do you owe that money to?
Pretty much anybody who has any interaction with state government, we owe money to.
O que inclui toda a gente, desde a Universidade do Illinois, a quem devem 400 milhões de dólares, a pequenos empresários como Mayur Saha, dono de uma farmácia em Chicago e que há meses que aguarda o pagamento de 200 mil dólares da Medicaid. Depois há ainda as 2 mil organizações não lucrativas a quem o Estado deve 1.000 milhões de dólares. Os serviços luteranos existem desde 1867 e prestam serviços essenciais a 70 mil pessoas, sobretudo idosos, deficientes e doentes mentais. O Estado devia 9 milhões de dólares antes do Dia da Ação de Graças e os serviços estiveram prestes a fechar as portas.
How long can you go on like this?
Well, we wonder that too, because we really don't know.
O reverendo Denver Bittner é o presidente dos serviços luteranos. Ele diz que foram obrigados a esgotar a sua linha de crédito e todas as reservas monetárias antes do Estado lhes pagar, quando já era um caso perdido.
It has to be that you've sold off all of your assets, you have borrowed from everybody you can borrow from, and then we'll think about it.
Even though they owe you the money?
Even though they owe us the money.
The first words out of my mouth are usually an apology because they have been, put in this situation that, really is unacceptable, and there's very little I can do or say other than apologize.
O controlador Dan Hines não tem de se preocupar só com a rede de segurança social. Alguns legisladores do Illinois foram despejados dos seus gabinetes porque o Estado não tinha a renda em dia. E há histórias de polícias estaduais que não foram atendidos em estações de serviço porque os donos se recusaram a aceitar os cartões de crédito do Estado.
The state's a deadbeat.
Yeah, I mean, the state of Illinois is known as a deadbeat state. This is a reputation that has taken us years to earn, and we've reached the heights of, I think, becoming the worst in the country.
Nem todos os problemas que Illinois e os outros estados enfrentam remontam à grande recessão. Mas a queda drástica nas receitas fiscais expôs décadas de irresponsabilidade financeira, gastos impensados, pacotes de benefícios irreais para os funcionários públicos e o uso de artifícios políticos para encobrir déficits ocultos. Isto veio obrigar os governadores dos estados e o povo a enfrentar algumas duras realidades.
This is different, isn't it?
It is very different. And the reason it's different is because the only choices left are choices that people previously have said were politically impossible, that you couldn't do. You couldn't cut K-12 education funding. You couldn't do those things. You couldn't talk about pension and benefit reform for the public sector unions, that these were third rails of politics. We are now left with no alternatives.
Just the third rail.
Yeah, that's it. I'm just going to grab it and go and let the chips fall where they may. This money's got to come from someplace.
In some ways,
De várias maneiras, o governador Chris Christie é o delator político da crise financeira estadual. Ele realizou cortes de 26% no orçamento de Nova Jersey, incluindo um corte de $1.000 milhões na educação, levando ao despedimento de milhares de professores. Eliminou 1.300 cargos na função pública e reduziu drasticamente os financiamentos às cidades, condados e povoações de Nova Jersey, que enfrentam os seus próprios problemas financeiros. E ainda assim, este ano, enfrentam um déficit de $10.000 milhões. A longo prazo, a situação é muito, muito pior.
okay, let's talk about the pension obligations.
Sure.
$46 billion unfunded liability for pensions, $66 billion unfunded for healthcare liability.
Yes, sir.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money even for the federal government.
That's a lot of money.
And there are people who think it's worse.
Yeah, I think that's an optimistic view. Listen, at this point, if it's worse, what's the difference? I mean, it's bad enough as it is, so what's the difference? I mean, now we're talking about money that none of us can really get our arms around.
I mean, this is unsustainable, right?
Totally unsustainable. We have a benefit problem. It's not an income problem from the state, it's a benefit problem. And so we got to change those benefits.
And what's the reaction been to that?
It depends on where you sit. I mean, I think the general public thinks, I can't believe anybody gets a pension anymore. I've got a 401k, it got killed in the stock market. I don't know what I'm going to do for my retirement. I can't believe people get a pension anymore. So I think amongst the broad general public, they've said, amen. And I think among the public sector unions, they're yelling and screaming.
E Christie ripostou, provocou uma discussão pública com o Sindicato dos Professores, uma das forças políticas mais poderosas do estado de Nova Jersey.
And you're not compensating me for my education, and you're not compensating me for my experience. That's
Well, you know what? Then you don't have to do it.
É uma cena que se começa a repetir um pouco por todo o país.
Cuts, cuts, cuts and more cuts.
Os governadores dos estados com maiores dificuldades financeiras estão a começar a persuadir ou a ameaçar os sindicatos da função pública a fazer concessões naqueles que são considerados os pacotes intocáveis da reforma e da saúde, atualmente com um déficit de $1 bilhão.
$1 trillion. Some union leaders have suggested that you're running the state like Tony Soprano.
Well, that's, as an Italian American, I take great offense to that. Listen, you know what it is? I'm the first person to expose them for what they've been doing to the public.
You want the public employee unions to share the pain.
You bet. I want them to share in the sacrifice. And this is what I say to public sector unions, listen, you can boo me now, But I'm the first governor who's walked into this room in 10 years and told you the truth. And here's the truth. If you don't partner with me to get this done, in 10 years you won't have a pension. And that's the truth.
Mas também é verdade que alguma da responsabilidade pela crise nas pensões da Nova Jersey cabe ao próprio governador. Christie e os seus antecessores não contribuíram com a parte do Estado nas pensões em 13 dos últimos 17 anos, sendo uma das razões que está a levar o fundo à falência. Christie diz que isso pertence ao passado.
Christie says it's ancient history.
We spent too much on everything. We spent too much. We spent money we didn't have. We borrowed money just crazily. The credit card's maxed out, and it's over. It's over. We now have to get to the business of climbing out of the hole. We've been digging it for a decade or more. We got to climb now, and climbing's harder. We got to do it.
Segundo a analista do Wall Street, Meredith Whitney, o problema aqui é que ninguém sabe ao certo a dimensão dos buracos. Ela e a sua equipa passaram 2 anos e gastaram milhares de horas a tentar analisar a condição financeira dos 15 maiores estados. Ela queria saber se eles conseguiriam pagar o dinheiro que tinham pedido emprestado, que tipo de risco representavam para o mercado de capitais a nível municipal no valor de 3 bilhões de dólares a que as administrações estaduais e locais recorrem para financiar escolas, autoestradas e outros projetos.
How accurate is the financial information that's public on the states and municipalities?
The lack of transparency with the state disclosure is the worst I have ever seen. Ultimately, we have to use what's publicly available data, and a lot of it is as old as June 2008. So that's before the financial crisis hit in the fall of 2008.
Whitney acredita que os Estados arranjarão maneira de honrar as suas dívidas, mas ela receia que algumas administrações locais, que dependem do Estado para 1/3 das suas receitas, fiquem numa situação de sufoco quando os Estados se virem obrigados a apertar o cinto. Ela está convencida que algumas cidades e condados não conseguirão cumprir as suas obrigações para com os detentores de títulos municipais que financiam as suas dívidas. No início de 2010, o estado da Pensilvânia teve de resgatar a cidade de Harrisburg, sua capital, devido a uma dívida de centenas de milhões de dólares resultante do projeto de uma incineradora.
There's not a doubt in my mind that you will see a spate of municipal bond defaults.
How many is a spate?
You could see 50 sizable defaults, 50 to 100 sizable defaults, more. This will amount to hundreds of billions of dollars worth of defaults.
Os títulos municipais há muito que são considerados os investimentos mais seguros, comprados por pequenos investidores que querem poupar para a reforma e detidos em grande número pelos grandes bancos. Um pequeno incumprimento pode afetar todo o mercado. Neste momento, as grandes agências de notação financeira, como a Standard & Poor's e a Moody's, que se enganaram em tudo em relação à crise imobiliária, dizem que não há motivos para preocupação, mas Meredith Whitney não é da mesma opinião.
When individual investors look to people that are supposed to know better, they're patted on the head and told it's not something you need to worry about. When it'll be something to worry about within the next 12 months.
12 months.
12 months.
Ninguém fala disso agora, mas o grande teste chega na próxima primavera. Nessa altura chegam ao fim os 160 mil milhões de dólares de estímulo federal que ajudaram as administrações estaduais e locais a sobreviver à grande recessão. Os Estados vão precisar de mais dinheiro e vão quase de certeza pedir outro resgate. Só que desta vez não há garantias de que Washington venha em seu auxílio.
Os mistérios da memória intrigam a ciência há muito e os prodígios da memória parecem ser infindáveis. Vamos hoje falar de supermemórias, pessoas que conseguem recordar-se minuciosamente de tudo aquilo que se passou nas suas vidas. Eu interrogo-me se isto é uma bênção ou se será uma maldição.
Louise Owen tem 37 anos, é violinista profissional e vive na cidade de Nova York, mas também tem outro dom que é muito mais raro.
Let me give you a date. Let's say January 2nd, 1990.
Right now I'm remembering the jogging class that I started that morning.
And you're actually back there.
I can feel it. I can remember the coach saying, keep going.
That was more than...
Isto foi há mais de 20 anos, quando ela tinha 16, uma data que escolhi perfeitamente ao acaso, como fiz com a seguinte.
February 18th, 1988.
1988. Oh.
You're laughing.
I'm laughing. It was a Thursday. I had a big conversation with a friend of mine, and that's all I'm going to say.
Louise diz que se lembra de todos os dias da sua vida desde os 11 anos.
try to talk us through, can you do that? How it works out of the air. April 21st, 1991.
1991, okay, April 21st. So in the moment between April 21st and 1991, I have scrolled through 25 April 21sts thinking, which one is it going to be? Which one is it going to be? Okay, 1991, which was a Sunday, and I was in Los Angeles and I had a concert with the American Youth Symphony.
You went to the most important thing that happened that day.
That was the most, I mean, I probably don't want to hear about, you know, sort of the day, oh, I got up in the morning and I got dressed.
You remember that? Yeah. You remember what you had for lunch?
Not what I had for lunch that day, but I do remember what I had for dinner the night before.
And effortless. It just pops in.
I mean, for me, it's almost as automatic as if you say, what is your name and where do you live?
Mas como é que sabemos que o que ela diz lembrar-se aconteceu mesmo? É aqui que surge James McGaugh, professor de neurobiologia na Universidade de Califórnia, Irvine, e conceituado perito no campo da memória. O Dr. McGaugh é o primeiro a descobrir e a estudar a memória autobiográfica superior e está a interrogar Louise, o seu quinto sujeito, para descobrir isso mesmo. Uma doença visual obriga-o a usar uma lente turva.
Let's move back in time now to 1990. It rained on several days in January and February. Can you name the dates on which it rained?
Por incrível que pareça, ela conseguiu.
It was slightly rainy and cloudy on January 14th, 15th. It was very hot the weekend of the 27th, 28th. No rain.
Confirmamos com os boletins meteorológicos oficiais.
It rained very hard on Sunday, February 4th.
E ela tinha razão. McGaugh afirma que este tipo de memória é completamente novo para a ciência. Ele e os colegas tiveram de conceber os seus próprios testes, como este sobre acontecimentos públicos.
October 19th, 1987.
It was a Monday. That was the day of the big stock market crash, and the cellist Jacqueline Dupre died that day.
The Berlin Wall falls on what day?
November 9th, 1989, which was a Thursday.
Christopher Reeve's accident occurred on what day?
It was Saturday, May 27th, 1995.
And when were the Oscars held in 1999?
In 1999, Sunday, March 21st.
Yes. Perfect.
I went to a fabulous Oscar party that day.
Because these people remember things that you and I couldn't possibly remember.
And they're not memorizing, there's no trick.
They can do with their memories what you and I can do about yesterday.
And they can do it every day.
And they can do it every day. And when I ask what goes on in your brain, what goes on in your mind, they give the very unsatisfying response, I just see it. It's just there.
A primeira pessoa identificada com esta capacidade foi Jill Price, que afirma sentir-se assombrada por fluxo interminável de memórias e não quis conhecer nenhuma das outras pessoas. A seguir foi Brad Williams, radialista e repórter de La Crosse, Wisconsin, a quem a memória não incomoda. Ele afirma que dá jeito no trabalho e em jogos da cultura geral.
I would get 6,000, 7,000 points. Everybody else would get 1,000 points.
A terceira pessoa foi Rick Barron, de Cleveland.
Do you remember every movie you've ever seen?
Sure.
And you remember when lots of television shows started?
Anything. Movie.
60 Minutes?
Tuesday, September 24th, 68. The first Sunday show was September 19th, 71.
August 1st, 1974.
Thursday.
Why do you know that?
Well, that's my most memorable August 1st.
Why? E Bob Petrella.
I moved to LA that year.
A TV...
Produtor e autor de televisão que funciona como memória coletiva e por vezes entretenimento da noite para os amigos.
1996, April 27th, which was a Saturday.
It was a Tuesday.
No, April 27th, 96.
Chart? No, I'm in 93.
See?
It was a Saturday.
Everybody else can't remember anything as getting older.
I have an almanac and I'm wrong.
It's not wrong.
I must confess that when I first heard about this research, what surprised me was not that this condition existed, but that it was considered so rare. That's because it's...
Isto porque parecia que estavam a descrever uma amiga minha, a atriz Mary Lou Anner, protagonista da série de êxito Taxi. Ela vive em Los Angeles com o marido e 2 filhos de casamento anterior.
Hey Mom, what day was Valentine's Day in 79?
In 1979? It was a Wednesday.
And you're right.
You know, you've lived with me your entire life.
You've never explained how you do that.
I don't do it. I just see it.
You and I have known each other
25 years. I can rattle off almost every single time I've seen you. Do you remember when we went to Oriole, the restaurant? That was 93.
Oh my gosh.
That was June 1st, the Tuesday.
And what did we eat?
I had the salmon because
Ela até se lembra em que dia calçou pela primeira vez os inúmeros sapatos que tem no seu grande e bem organizado roupeiro.
Like these shoes, I wore them the first time I wore them October 18th, 2007. These I wore on April the 21st of this year, so that was a Tuesday. These shoes I got a long time ago.
A mim parecia-me memória autobiográfica superior.
1982. I got them on April the 9th, so that was a Friday of 1982.
Juntámos Mary Lou ao Dr. Magoo.
So nice to meet you.
I'm Jim.
Para testar oficialmente a sua memória, houve uma sessão no consultório dele.
You know when John Lennon was killed?
Yes, that was December 8th, 1980, and that was a Monday.
Com uma ronda de testes de memória padrão.
Go ahead and put them in the order that they were presented to you.
E os questionários sobre acontecimentos públicos.
Airline flight 191 crashes near Dallas, Texas.
Oh, I know exactly when that happened because all of a sudden I was at it was August the 2nd of 1985. It was a Friday.
Após 7 horas,
October 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd.
Magoo e o seu colaborador, o neurocientista Larry Cahill, classificaram oficialmente Mary Lou Hanner como o sujeito número 6 com memória autobiográfica superior.
Extremely impressive.
You really do remember your whole life.
It's like putting in a DVD and it queues up to a certain place. I'm there again. So I'm looking out from my eyes and seeing things visually as I would have that day.
Do you remember all your old boyfriend's birthdays? I'll bet you do.
Not only that, the date of the first time, it's like, no, I remember in order.
Let's have another warm Miami welcome for Mary Lou Hanner.
We searched.
Procuramos imagens de eventos antigos na vida de Mary Lou para tentar baralhá-la.
October 26th, 1976.
Okay, October 26th,
1976
was a Tuesday. Oh, I went to shoot a Ring Around the Collar commercial in Venice, Italy, and you saw a 1.5-second mood shot of Venice, and then a gondolier singing, "Of love I sing, tra-la-la-la, for you got ring around the collar." And I went, my powder didn't work.
Of love I sing, la-la-la-la.
Mais de 30 anos depois,
My powder didn't work.
ela acertou em cheio.
Really, I've drawn up the dregs.
What do you see as the potential in terms of science?
It could be a new chapter. We think we knew a lot, and all of a sudden these people come and display a kind of memory we've never seen before, and we have to say, woo, what is that about? And so we're going to take a look and see if we can figure that out. And it could be very important.
I'm so excited to meet you guys.
Uma coisa que o Dr. Magoo ainda não tinha feito foi reunir estes génios da memória, por isso fizemos-lo nós, e ele iniciou uma sessão de interrogatório inigualável.
A 7.1 earthquake hit the San Francisco-Oakland area on
October 17th, 1989.
Tuesday.
I remember we were watching the game of the World Series.
It was
like,
oh
my gosh.
Are you guys
That was
feeling
terrible.
a little competitive with each other?
No.
Well, I want to make sure that I'm not the dunce here.
No, I know.
I got to keep up.
When they tell you they know, are they always correct?
I would say over 99% of the time, if not 100% of the time. If they tell you something and you can check it, they're right. I've almost given up looking now. Because, okay, they're right.
People go, okay, what's the trick?
Yeah,
Or what's
exactly,
that's what you get a lot.
Parecem apreciar a oportunidade de poderem finalmente comparar notas.
Do you guys ever get ticked at someone and it's something that you consider monumental, and for them it's monumental, and then you bring it up and they go, well, I don't remember that. It's like, how can you forget that?
You know what I love when people get so flattered, like they go, wow, I must have really made an impression on you. And I go, no.
Does it ever freak anybody out?
People misunderstand it a lot of times. They think it's photographic. They think it's autistic. You know, they call you Rain Man. Right. And I'll just go along with it. Yeah, definitely Friday, stuff like that.
It was a question.
Era uma pergunta que nós tínhamos. Seriam autistas?
Are they anything like savants?
Well, I guess the answer is yes and no. They're not people who have an extraordinary ability but can't tie their shoe. And that's part of what I think makes this at least so interesting for me, is that you have this really remarkable ability in a person who is otherwise pretty darn normal.
Mas o que significa ao certo normal quando nos lembramos de todos os dias da nossa vida? Quando todos os bons e maus momentos que nos aconteceram estão logo ali, ao nosso alcance.
Instantly accessible. When you look back at painful memories, is it just as raw?
Sometimes it'll be as though it happened yesterday. Sometimes it's as though it happened last week.
Basta mencionar um dia triste como aquele em 1986 em que Louise soube que tinha de mudar de escola para ela o reviver emocionalmente.
I felt like my whole world was collapsing. And you say that and it's like all of a sudden I feel like this really heartbroken little 13-year-old all over again.
You feel it?
I do feel it.
Vivid.
Yeah.
Awful.
Yeah.
Is your heart?
I mean, my heart is actually pounding right now.
telling me this. She says.
Ela afirma que a sua memória é um dom, mas que há desvantagens.
Sometimes having this sort of extreme memory can be a very isolating sort of thing. There are times when I feel like I'm fluent in a language that nobody else speaks, or that I'm walking around and everybody else has amnesia.
Are there still skeptics in your field who know what you're up to and just...
Yes, science is based on skepticism. And so, yes, there are skeptics. I suppose if I had not met these people and tested them, I would be a skeptic. My answer to that is, come on over for a day, I'll let you meet a few of them. And I'd like to see how many of them walk away and say, well, it's not a big deal. No, it is a big deal, and we need to figure out what it's all about.
Come on in. And that...
Esse trabalho já está em curso. O Dr. Magó está a fazer uma ressonância magnética a todos os sujeitos em busca de pistas que possam estar escondidas na estrutura dos seus cérebros.
Okay, here we go.
E é claro que estes prodígios da memória estão a interessar os cientistas, sobretudo para o entendimento do que causa as terríveis doenças da memória, como a doença de Alzheimer.
Estávamos a assistir quando a primeira imagem da ressonância magnética ao cérebro de Louise Owen apareceu no ecrã. Espera-se que, alguns nestas imagens e medições, esteja a primeira pista para explicar a sua extraordinária memória.
Did you find anything good?
We'll find out.
What did you think you were going to find, and then what did you find?
Well, if you want the honest truth is that I thought, I bet we'll find nothing.
Oh.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like figuring that, if you open Einstein's brain, there's going to be some huge lobe that says genius. You don't find stuff like that.
Mas o Dr. Cahill enganou-se. Não havia lobos de gênio, mas foram encontradas partes do cérebro significativamente maiores em pessoas com memória autobiográfica superior do que em sujeitos de controle dessa mesma idade e género.
This would be a person looking this way.
Ele trouxe o modelo de um cérebro para nos explicar.
There's two areas that are jumping out at us. The first is this area over here called the temporal lobe, and this area is quite a bit bigger. Now, that's intriguing because this is the chunk of brain neurobiologists think has to do with storing new memories.
So not a surprise.
Not a surprise there.
Mais interessante ainda, segundo ele, é a segunda região no interior do cérebro chamada núcleo caudado, que os cientistas acreditam estar envolvido naquilo que se chama aprendizagem de hábitos ou capacidades e também no distúrbio obsessivo-compulsivo.
Can you give us an analogy of how much larger these sections are?
A lot larger, perhaps up to 7 or 8 what's called standard deviations larger than normal. To understand what that means, if a man was 7 or 8 standard deviations taller than the height of the average man, he'd be 10 feet tall. So we have some potentially whopping effects.
Giants.
Agora têm de descobrir porquê.
We have the chicken-egg problem. Do they have these larger brain regions because they have exercised it a lot, or do they have good memories because
these are larger?
Because these are larger.
Então, e o facto de o núcleo caudado poder estar envolvido no distúrbio obsessivo-compulsivo? Os cientistas acham que aí pode residir uma pista, e a primeira prova está no roupeiro de Mary Lou Hanner.
I love organization. I like my shoes a certain way, right foot going this way, left foot going that way, so you can always see the toe and the heel on every pair. And you'll see that things are very coordinated here, but in sections. And I always hang like with like, and I have the exact same hangers because then everything slides more easily.
All of them have what we think of as OCD-like behaviors. They love to collect things. They have to have things in just the right order.
What about phobias?
Does hypochondria count? It's like, oh, I hope I don't get this. I hope I don't get that disease.
You have a little germa
I
thing?
wash hands frequently, yeah.
So do I. In fact, I dropped my keys when I was in a hurry driving down here, and I went, all right. No, so I went back in and I washed them off. I ran them off. Yeah, I do that all the time if I drop them.
Can you conclude there's a connection, or we're still way too early?
Because it's showing up in one fashion or another in all of them, I'd say it's our biggest clue.
Se pensarmos bem, eles parecem procurar formas de organizar as suas memórias.
The thing that is most pleasurable is categorizing any event. Any time I went bowling in my life, any wedding.
That you lived.
Starting as a 6-year-old.
Sometimes what I do is I'll go back July 14th, as far back as I can remember. I just go July 14th, 67, that happened. And then maybe I won't remember 68, but I'll remember 69 and 70. And
Or you remember around 68.
But do you all do that?
Yeah.
Luís até compara datas.
I'll scroll all the way back to 1985. I'll be like, well, which were better, March 3rds or March 4ths? A year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and go all the way back. It's sort of like mental gymnastics.
Existe uma certa ironia no facto de ser o Dr. Magoo a estudar este fenómeno, porque ele é conhecido no reino da memória por descobertas que estas pessoas parecem desafiar. O seu trabalho com ratos de laboratório, como este, que não sabe que existe uma plataforma escondida por baixo da superfície deste tanque d'água, provou o papel da adrenalina na fabricação de memórias resistentes. O rato nada em volta da berma até se aventurar e esbarrar acidentalmente com a plataforma. No dia seguinte, ele encontra um nadinha mais depressa. Mas veja este rato que aprendeu ontem onde fica a plataforma e que recebeu logo de seguida uma dose de adrenalina.
Notice that it starts out not on the edge.
Oh,
There you go.
that's impressive.
A adrenalina fez com que o cérebro deste rato se lembrasse melhor e Magoo afirma que o mesmo se passa com as pessoas. Quando temos alguma experiência emocional, positiva ou negativa, os nossos corpos libertam adrenalina, registando com mais intensidade essas memórias no nosso cérebro.
What can you and I do right now to make sure we remember this conversation? I could kick you.
Yeah, or I could embarrass you. Most of my research is with laboratory rats. And suppose I said all of a sudden, oh, and I'm going to demonstrate it to you, and I drop about 6 rats right at your feet.
I'd remember, believe me, I'd remember.
You'd remember. I said, excuse me, don't sit on her lap. Excuse me, you're not supposed to be there. I think you'd remember that.
Now, the people that we're meeting now,
Yes.
they wouldn't need those rats.
E é isso que é tão desconcertante. Estas pessoas lembram-se de acontecimentos vulgares e desprovidos de emoção que as restantes pessoas esqueceriam. Muitos adeptos de desporto conseguem lembrar-se dos pontos altos de jogos particularmente emocionantes. Bob Petrella, adepto dos Pittsburgh Steelers, lembra-se de todos os jogos.
When was the last time the Redskins beat the Steelers?
Let's see. They played them in 2004, and the Steelers won. They played them in 2000, the Steelers...
We sat there.
Ficámos ali a ouvi-lo percorrer 19 temporadas em 19 segundos.
Oh, in 91. Yeah, they played in 91, November 17th, 1991.
That is stunning.
Tentámos recuar um pouco mais.
What were the last 2 games in October of 1979?
Let's see, the 22nd, they played Denver on Monday night, and I think they won 42-7.
Yep.
And then they played, Dallas on October 28th, Sunday. It was on CBS, so you can get that game.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Foi o que fizemos. Fomos ver as imagens do jogo e 31 anos depois ele conseguiu descrever as jogadas.
Scrambling, and Elsie Greenwood just slammed right into him.
Look out, Roger.
It was in the 4th quarter.
Staubach really took a shot. He was hit by Greenwood.
Ele até se lembrou de imagens específicas da emissão.
I remember Staubach just sitting on the bench.
Here's Roger now being worked on over there.
You could just tell he was out of it.
He probably has a concussion.
How about November 11th, 1990?
They didn't play. That was a bye.
You're good. That was a trick question.
No, I remember that day because I was depressed. I had broken up with this woman, and I was going out to run a couple of videos, and I was thinking about her.
There's a quote that I love. It's by the great psychologist William James. He said, if we remembered everything, we should on most occasions be as ill off as if we remembered nothing.
E é por isso que o campo da memória considerou sempre como um dado adquirido que uma dose de esquecimento é crucial para a nossa capacidade de pensar.
You abstract and generalize, in part because you forget. When you have a trip to work, and you have the same trip every day, you abstract and you generalize a typical trip to work because you don't remember every single detail of every single trip. So a little forgetting is needed to help you abstract and generalize.
Well, that's what I always thought until I met your 5 subjects today. Do you ever get the feeling that all these memories are cluttering up your mind? But it's just too much up there and I need to sweep this away?
It's organized. You know what I mean? It's organized, so it's called on when you need it. But it's not like they're like, oh, they're coming in all the time. And I don't feel like
it's
that.
not overwhelming.
The surprising thing is that these people don't appear to have cluttered brains. They can pull out the right information at the right time, and that's the puzzle.
It's the real puzzle.
That's the puzzle.
It kind of takes everything we've all assumed, scientists and ordinary people, and said, come on, guys, rethink it.
Yeah, got to do some rethinking, but that's fun. That's part of the fun part of science.
This is where the saliva goes.
And they're pursuing...
E eles usam todas as abordagens possíveis. Testes de ADN para ver se há diferenças na sua constituição genética, testes ao uso das mãos, dado que os 3 homens são canhotos, à procura de alguma pista.
Well, which way would you cartwheel? I mean, could you imagine going this way, or could you imagine...
I'm offering to do cartwheels.
O inquérito está a começar com 6 sujeitos dispostos a saber onde tudo isto vai dar. E sabe-se lá quantos mais existem.
I've always loved having this memory. I feel as an actress and as a writer, it's been indispensable. As a mother, as a wife, certainly.
Why do you say that?
Oh my gosh. No, because you can never lose an argument. No, you didn't say that. I said this, you said this.
Yeah, but maybe he doesn't like it so much.
No, I know. Yeah, well, that's probably why I'm on my 3rd. Yeah.
O que levanta uma questão pertinente, já que Mary Lou é a única dos 6 que é casada ou tem filhos.
You would think that in romance...
It can be tricky. Yeah.
It can be tricky.
I think so.
Breakups must be
horrible.
Horrible, because you cannot not remember.
Right.
I find it intriguing that 4 out of 5 of you are not married, and as far as I'm aware, are not in a relationship. Do you all think there's a problem having this memory and having a good relationship?
I like to think it's coincidence.
Maybe. You're going to remember everything?
Right.
You're going to win every argument?
Although I think it's, it's what you do with it. I mean, I try not to be defined by this.
E ela afirma que na maioria das vezes é bem sucedida.
Overall, is it a good thing? Are you glad you have this?
I am.
You are?
I am. I mean, sure, there are times when it's difficult, but I feel like it makes me live my life with so much more intention and so much more joy. Like,
what do you mean more intention?
Because I know that I'm going to remember whatever happens today. It's like, all right, what can I do to make today significant? What can I do that is going to make today stand out?
As you watch these remarkable people, and as you think back on, say, my 3 children, how little I can actually remember from when they were 4, 5, 6, you start to wonder, why are we the default state? Why are we normal? And they're the unusual ones. Why didn't we evolve such that most of us are like them and we're the unusual ones who can hardly remember anything? Just makes you wonder.
E aqui está uma parte deste nosso mundo vista aqui em 60 minutos, com a excelência de sempre do jornalismo televisivo da CBS News, mas que lhe chega só aqui nesta excelência de conteúdos, que é a SIC Notícias. Muito obrigado por nos preferir. Nós voltamos daqui a uma semana.